Hello, Hola, Konnichiwa, Salaam, Ciao Namaste. Peace to all. This is Soulology, the science of the soul. And let's discuss about the 10 things to know about your ego and how to understand it. In my own experience, the ego is used, we use it in music, we use it in business as a sense of pride, believing that we know this and that we're the top in everything. It's kind of like having this big bulgy armor, or being a hologram that's all huge and giant, or here's even better one. It's like being the Wizard of Oz, being the giant, terrible, scary head, but you're really behind the screen just showing a big head and telling someone, don't look at the screen. That being said, number one, ego always thinks about me, 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 me. What about me? What about how I want things? What about my relationship? What about my money? What about my car? What about what I get to do? And me this and me that. In my own experience, when I was helping people out, I always got upset at the simple fact that why is no one helping me, but I'm helping people. But you have to understand, when you're doing that, you are the one who's creating that situation. And you're the one who can uncreate it if you desire. But don't expect anything in return, even if you feel that person deserves to, because when you're coming from a me mentality or a possessive mentality, as we've discussed, it becomes very unnatural, in a sense, not allowing you to truly grow to where you desire to go. So you're more about me, 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 me. And in a sense, what the ego does is it's more like a fussing child. You're more likely to fuss about why people aren't doing this for you and that for you, instead of focusing on the self. You see, this is, we watch TV and everything, we want this, we want that, and we believe that this should be mine. I deserve it and this and that. It's up to you to create that experience even in this lifetime. No one owes you anything. You, though, owe yourself a chance to truly understand who you are. Number two, and we do this every day, and I even discussed this in the Pink Elephant in the Room conversation about the Charlottesville incident. We find ourselves being separate, believing that we live separate lives, we do separate things, we're separate people, separate cultures, and everything else in between. But what we don't realize is that this is all an illusion in its own right. You are actually all the same thing. And I'm pretty sure I've discussed this in a video, but you are not a body. You are a soul. And being a soul, you need to understand the fact that you have nothing to do with this body in a sense, but to experience yourself as the whole. We use this as an arrogant way to believe that a certain race is better than a certain race. And even in my experience, I used to believe this when I was younger, of different races who I felt were superior in a sense, and as well as myself, but had to realize that we all are the same thing. You cannot be superior to the self if you're all the same thing. And on top of that, because of how arrogant we feel we are in a sense of separation. We blame others for their mistakes because of the color of their skin. We blame others because of how they look. We blame others even when it's our fault. It was your fault. Actually, it was your fault. We believe so highly in blaming others for the problems that are going on in this world that we don't think to realize that just earlier what I was talking about for number one, you create your own issues. If you truly desire to change something, then change it. Don't blame others for things that are going on, whether it be with you or out in the world. You have to understand that you are in the matrix. And that being said, either you learn how to reprogram and control your own mind, or someone will control it for you. We'll blame everybody except ourselves for the situation due to wanting to be right about something. And that's what the ego desires, to be always right, that it knows everything. And there was a statement that, or a quote, that a true wise man doesn't know everything or knows nothing. But a fool knows everything. The ego would believe itself to be like that in a sense, knowing everything. But the truth is, if you really think about it, even if you know everything, you still don't know. Because that means you don't know nothing. It's really something to think about, right? If you don't know nothing and you believe you know everything, then you couldn't possibly grow or evolve yourself because of being stuck in the ego, believing that you are always right. To truly know yourself is to know your flaws, and when you're not always right and you're not always perfect, but you have to be willing to accept it, and on top of that, admit when you aren't right, when you have a statement you've said, or when you've done something, any action, any situation that has been flawed. And from there, instead of getting upset and blaming others, grow from it. And on top of that, number 4, don't show hostility towards people in trying to be right. Even when I was younger, especially with family, I used to believe I was always right. And it wasn't that I was trying to do it on purpose. It was for the simple fact that at the time I felt alone. So I used my ego in a sense to defend myself and block myself from getting hurt, because I didn't want to get hurt. And I used hostility sometimes due to how a person would react or think to act in a certain way. We use hostility in a sense of fear, or better yet, in an unnatural way, as panic. Panic, as we know, and I've done a video on it, is an unnatural emotion of who you are. And we panic about aliens taking over. We panic about other people, other groups of people taking over. We panic about not having enough money. We panic about if we'll ever make it and have a better life. We use hostility in a sense as a desperate attempt to get to where we desire to go because of our unnatural panicking emotion of this. And because of that, we're afraid that we won't really make it. And that we'll have to go through this over and over again. But you have to realize that in this world there's enough of everything, and to know thyself first will help you. The ego is terrified of the simple fact that things are taken away, that there's not enough, so it needs to grow it needs to fight on and everything, because people will take things from me and this and that. But in this world, you have to understand nobody's going to take anything from you because there's plenty of everything. And if not, you can always create more. It is up to you to desire to create more. And number 5, resentment. We have resentment towards people because of our past, of what they've done and everything. And because of that, the ego can sometimes hold a grudge against someone. And there was a quote that was told to me that a grudge is like holding hot coal in your hands. Even if you throw it, you still will be burned. The ego will hold on to this burning sensation even though it will hurt it in the end. So when you take the time to get away from that burning pain, and actually heal yourself and love yourself, you can actually focus more on growing who you are. And on top of that, number 6.